Saturday was one of those days where you're handicapping the card and there's just that one game that's jumping off the board screaming, bet me, bet me, bet me. And who am I to ignore those voices? And I didn't. As I gave you Oklahoma as a race-to-bar 20-dime release, yeah, the Sooners were a 27-point favorite, but how easy was that one as they trounced Texas Tech 55-16? And you got that play as the half-price play of the day winner. Now listen, I'm not advocating for laying 27 or 33 points every single Saturday, but the fact is, Saturday's college football card, you will always find a handful of teams that are laying those big double-digit numbers. You can't be scared to bet them, because every single Saturday you will find a handful of those college teams winning by those decisive 30 to 40 point margins, because they do so. Now, there are some teams that you have to be leery about, as I pointed out yesterday, with certain teams in letdown and look-ahead situations. For example, Wisconsin. Did I not warn you that the Badgers, coming off that big emotional win against Michigan the week prior, would have a difficult time covering that double-digit margin? I think they were a 23-point favorite at home yesterday when they were taking on Northwestern, and they didn't come close to covering that post. So you have to be careful at times. Listen, look what happened to Clemson yesterday, right? That was a near debacle. But there are sometimes you look at teams such as Oklahoma and Texas Tech didn't have their starting quarterback. Their defense hadn't been tested yesterday. And the Sooners playing at home. Sometimes the stars align and you look at those big margins and you lay them. And thankfully, you don't have that situation occurring in the NFL. Unless, of course, the Miami Dolphins are playing. So let's move forward. In the NFL today, listen, I don't have a play as strong. I have a top-rated 15-dime release. My favorite play today happens to be on the Rams-Bucks game. But there are other guys that have big plays. I would say the biggest, perhaps, would be Dwayne Connors, who has NFL winner number 8 out of 11 today. And it's his second ever raised-the-bar 1,500-unit NFL release of his career. He's calling for a 17-point blowout, and you get it for over half price off by using coupon code RAISE, R-A-I-S-E. He says it's going to be a 34-17 final. Listen, he hit his first 1,500-unit win last Sunday when he, like I, had the Rams over Cleveland, and it's bigger than his top-rated 1,000-unit winners when he had the Eagles outright over Green Bay on Thursday and the Bears last Monday night over Washington. So he's one of the featured plays today, and all the other discounts and promos are over on the homepage. Yesterday, I hit 2 out of 3 with the comp plays. Let's see, I gave you Temple and Washington, lost with Clemson. Let's get you some more complimentary plays here. Let's take a look at the late afternoon card. I'm going to go with Seattle to rebound after losing outright to New Orleans at home last week. You know, when you look at that final box score and you see that the Seahawks actually outgained the Saints 515 total yards to 265, you realize afterwards, you scratch your head and you go, how the hell did the Seahawks lose that game? Well, I'll tell you, turnovers is how they lost that game. Poor special teams performance is how they lost that game, as the Saints scored one of their touchdowns on a pick six. I think another one on a... Actually, one was on a fumble return, one was on a punt return. But it was just a poor overall performance by Seattle. But they never lose in Arizona. They don't play especially well in Arizona, but they never lose in Arizona. Seemingly, they haven't lost in Arizona, I think, in Glendale since 2012. And I think they're going to get the job done here. Arizona is allowing 157 yards on the ground, 30th in the league in run defense. You look at Seattle, they should be able to run the ball with Chris Carson. They haven't. He's gotten off to a very slow start. He's fumbled in each of the first 3 games, but I'm looking for Seattle to get that ground game going. Russell Wilson, thankfully, has had a great season so far. He's thrown for over 900 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, completing almost 70% of his passes. So I think Seattle will be able to move the ball. Now, their defense hasn't played well at all. But listen, this Arizona team is young. I think an Arizona defense that is allowing, almost 27 points a game, that, last week against Kyle Allen, for example. I mean, Kyle Allen comes in there, the Carolina backup quarterback, and he shreds him. 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey last week, 153 yards rushing. I think Seattle's going to be able to move the ball. One of the reasons I didn't use Seattle as my best bet today, however, is that number 5, and I've mentioned it before. 5 is like that number that's out there on an island by itself. If it was 4.5, I could buy down to 4. That's a manageable number. 5, you're basically saying you got to win by a touchdown. 5 is a number that's kind of worthless to me. 5 means you got to win by 7. That's what it means, because that's the reality of that number. But I do like Seattle in this game, and I think it's a strong complementary play. It's my second favorite play on the board today. Another game on the late card. I like Dallas minus the 2.5 against New Orleans. Listen, I just told you the numbers. The Saints didn't necessarily win that game. Seattle lost that game last week. Now, we remember what happened last year when the Saints went to Dallas. They came in with a 10-game winning streak. They had covered 9 out of 10. They go into Dallas, and the Dallas defense just played tremendously in that contest. Held the Saints, I should say, to a season-low 176 yards. And that was a Saints team quarterbacked by Drew Brees. Teddy Bridgewater had a nice little game. 19 for 26, 2 touchdowns in that 33-27 upset of Seattle. But let's see when he's asked to do a little bit more today. Now, have the Cowboys played anybody on their 3-0 start? No. The Giants, the Redskins, and the Dolphins. You're talking the bottom of the barrel. Give them the Raiders, and it's like a grand slam. They haven't played anybody. You're talking about the dreck of the NFL. But I think they can beat the Saints team without Breeze, and I think they can get the job done on the road here. I like them in this contest. That's the bottom line. Listen, Cowboys 9-1-1 ATS run so far in regular season play going back to last season. And I think the jury is out here on a Saints team defensively that really hasn't played well at all so far this year. And I discount the fact that the Saints are on a 6-1 ATS roll as a home dog because that's a Saints team quarterbacked by Drew Brees. And until I can see that Teddy Bridgewater can drive the ball down the field, which he didn't do in his one season as a starter for Minnesota, which he hasn't shown that he's been able to do in that start last week against Seattle, I say the jury is out on this New Orleans offense with Bridgewater at the helm. On the early card, maybe it's a tease. But you're telling me I can have Kansas City at -7? I'm in. Okay, Detroit beat Philadelphia. The Eagles were injury-riddled, beaten up in their week prior against Atlanta. I discount the win against the Eagles. They beat the Chargers. You tell me the Chargers are any good without Melvin Gordon? I don't think so. And I just don't believe in the Lions. That's the bottom line. I think the Chiefs are going to be able to win this game by more than 7. I can't tell you anything more than that. You're telling me the Chiefs are only -7 against the Detroit Lions, a Detroit Lions team that sucked last year and everybody's on their bandwagon because, they got a defense, they're 2-0-1? I'm not buying it. End of story. Chiefs 9-2 against the spread their last 11 road. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, they've scored at least 28 points in every game this season. They've had at least a 17-point lead in the second half of every game. Now, of course, the problem with any Andy Reid coach team, and as a lifelong Eagles fan, I can tell you this personally, when Andy Reid coach teams get a lead in the second half, you have to sit there and sweat. Because he's a guy that no lead is ever safe. But I'm only laying 7, so I'll buy down the half point with Kansas City and keep my fingers crossed. So the 3 plays, I like Seattle #1, Kansas City #2, and Dallas #3. That's it. I'm sticking to my story, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Good luck, everybody.